Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and this episode is being produced for GoodCrowd.info, and we are really fortunate. I'm really excited. We have with us today Cavello. B is the one of the brains behind the Exploding Kittens campaign that was so incredibly successful last year, raising almost $9 million on Kickstarter. Exciting to have a conversation with B. We are also, well, B is a crowdfunding consultant at B is for Business. So B, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, the pleasure is all ours, and we appreciate you taking the time to be here today. B, let's just get a quick foundation
Sure.
To catch everyone up. What was Exploding Kittens, and how did you raise $9 million?
Oh my gosh. So Exploding Kittens is a card game. It's a Russian roulette styled card game. So the aim of the game is to outlast all of your opponents by not being exploded by the adorable kittens. The game was created by a friend of mine, Alon Lee, who is a extremely talented game designer, and his friend, Matt Inman, who you may know as the Oatmeal webcomic online. And so by their powers combined, they created this incredible game that we decided to launch as a Kickstarter campaign. And my involvement really came in just as the campaign launched. And what we really tried to do, sort of different perhaps than other campaigns you may have seen, was to turn the campaign more into a party than a fundraising strategy. So what we were doing, and specifically, I think a lot of this was the genius behind these two guys having a lot of experience working with large crowds. But what we decided to do is basically say, let's not focus on the money part of this conversation. Let's focus on the crowd part of crowdfunding, and let's really make this fun. And so Matt brought in his enormous Oatmeal online audience, and they really gave us the initial momentum to hit our goal in a matter of minutes, and many other really exciting things. But we maintain that momentum and we maintain that energy by continuing to interact with our audience. And that was really my role, was managing social media, overseeing all of our customer service, basically being the human that people interacted with while all of this incredible illustration and game mechanic was sort of being rolled out. And that in the end turned out to us, sending boxes of pizza all over the world to animal shelters and hosting game play testing parties, so people got to see like a preview version of the game ahead of time and give us feedback, which thank goodness we did, because they gave us some really great feedback. We're glad that we had their input. And it really felt like a team process. We were working, of course, internally as our own team, basically not sleeping, doing everything that we could, but we also saw such a wonderful and enormous response from our audience. And there's a group of people I've shouted out before that I just always have to acknowledge, called the Kitten Core. And they had Kitten Core email addresses before we had Exploding Kittens email addresses. So I can say there was a lot of passion involved in the campaign, and that's really what led us to being so successful.
Oh, that's great. And there are, I think, some real lessons that you've taken and learned from that, and that you use in your crowdfunding consulting business today. But you gave us 3 specific tips that you suggested that, don't even think about crowdfunding without doing these 3 things first. And the first one was to know your audience. Why is that important?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, their perception of crowdfunding in places like Kickstarter is that if you've got a really good idea and you put it out there on the internet, people are just going to find it and love it and help you make it come true. And the unfortunate reality is that there are, well, perhaps fortunate reality is there are a lot of good ideas on the internet, but unfortunately, they're not always reaching the right people. They're not reaching those passionate Kitten Core kind of fans. And what I think is really important before somebody even begins launching a crowdfunding campaign is to really realistically evaluate who is your audience for your idea, for your product, whatever it may be. Who is going to be so passionate and excited about that they're going to want to tell their friends? And also, who do you already know that fits that audience? Because I think a lot of people, when I have kind of initial consultations with people who are going to launch a crowdfunding campaign, they frequently think that if you build it, they will come. And experientially, that's not the case. You need to tap those people ahead of time and sometimes even empower them to be a member of your team, to be an evangelist, and to help really get that cause or that project idea that you have out there to the people who care about it most. And sometimes that's as simple as like sitting down and scrolling through your phone contact list, right? Like, it doesn't have to be some grandiose advertising campaign that you're doing to reach these folks. You just need to know what it is that you're trying to accomplish and who it is that can help you make that happen. Because the thing about crowdfunding is, as much as it is truly, it is a fundraising strategy, but it's really an audience building strategy. And what you want to do is find those initial seeds and sow those seeds so that your audience can grow into something that's also sustainable. I mean, I literally, one of the people I met in the Kitten Corps, I've like visited them when I visited their city. They emailed me the other day about some business advice. They run a bakery. It's called Sugar Whipped in New York. Like, we keep in touch because we are passionate about the same stuff. And that's a relationship that really has been priceless in the crowdfunding arena.
Interesting. Well, I think that's great insight. Your second point was that you need to clearly understand the realities of success. I think this is a way overlooked aspect.
Yeah, I mean,
there are a lot of things that we think of as being free.
Right.
Like it's free to put a T-shirt into an envelope and take it to the post office, right? It's free to do that. If you do it 2 times, if you do it 3 times, if you do it 3,000 times or 200,000 times, it's not free anymore, is it?
For real. And in addition to that, I mean, people overlook how many sizes of T-shirts they're going to need to produce and how many of them are going to get lost in the mail. So I think that when someone goes out to set up, especially a physical product fulfillable campaign, they need to really understand what it is that they are crowdfunding. Like, are you trying to create, say, an Exploding Kittens card game, or are you trying to create T-shirts? Because those are very different products with very different supply chains. And if you are overemphasizing these sort of add-on goodies that come with your actual project, you're creating a whole lot of work for yourself on the back end that, frankly, your audience may not even appreciate how hard that is for you to do. And so a lot of people, I think, they plan on having this minimum viable product, they plan on hitting this goal, and they're trying to do whatever they can to get there. And I so much empathize with that desire to just make it happen. But then when the campaign ends, suddenly you've got 10 or 100 or a couple 100,000 people who you made a promise to. And now you have to deliver. And so I think it's very important to know what it is that you're promising. Like, this is your team here who's there to support you. But crowdfunding campaigns can also end up being really dangerous for people's businesses and for their personal reputations if they don't follow through on those promises, because people who joined your team are there because of their passion, and that passion can turn the other way. So it's really important to talk to folks who've done it before, not just done crowdfunding before. I'm not just pitching my own services here, but also people who mail a lot of stuff, for instance, or maybe have produced online games and dealt with piracy. You have situations, and you might be, collecting people's personal information that you might have to save in some kind of legally protected manner. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the back end of these things, and crowdfunding platforms are designed to make it easy for you to get your idea on there and out into the world, which is great, but they aren't designed to help you follow through and actually finish up that project. And so you need to do the legwork and the homework beforehand to understand, what are you promising and how are you going to keep your promise?
Yeah, that's great counsel. Now, the third tip you gave, again, another underappreciated tip. And you said build a strong team. Why do you think a team is so important?
Crowdfunding campaigns, people sometimes think that they can do it on the weekend as sort of a passive thing. And I'm not going to say that if you're not the potato salad guy or whatever, that you can't have a weekend project and successfully fund it on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or whatever platform of your choice. But the reality is, most of the time when you're doing crowdfunding, you're doing it because you need some help, you need a crowd, or you need some funds, and you aren't going to be able to just do that on the side as this passive thing. It takes work. It's a serious job. And to do that serious job all by yourself is frankly really rough. And it can be a situation where you stretch yourself too thin because you need to be responding to people's questions about shipping, but you also need to be publishing new updates so people feel in the loop about what you're doing, not to mention actually making sure your project can happen by doing the legwork beforehand to get in touch with your manufacturers or to talk to the dev team that you're going to be working with. So when it comes to launching a crowdfunding campaign, I think that having a solid team that's really in it to win it together is important. But I also think that you need to be honest about the skills that you have and the things that you can't do yourself. Because as much as you might be bootstrapping it through crowdfunding, there are things that we can not all do. And sometimes, like, I myself was not going to be able to illustrate Exploding Kittens. Not that that was ever on the table, but I recognize that Matt has this incredible ability to draw these hilarious illustrations and reach this audience. And his role was really focusing on that. And therefore, he couldn't be doing customer support or whatever else needed to be done. So having a team of balanced, diverse skills is really valuable. And also having everyone just be so passionate about making sure that whatever the idea is does get realized.
Yeah, great tip. Well, I really appreciate you sharing those great insights, and I really appreciate it. B, I want to just shift directions just for a minute and just pause. You describe yourself as queer, and in San Francisco, where you live, I think that people are comfortable, understand that, and increasingly so around the country, people do. But I think you are unique in my network, and so I would love for you just to take a minute and educate me on
what that is.
and help with an eye toward helping me to be more comfortable and more kind to you and your friends.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think especially since we're talking about navigating an online space, there are positives and negatives to visibility. And I come from a place of privilege such that I feel like my visibility is something that can help bolster support for other people and maybe give them sort of idea that like you can succeed and you can be safe and you can be supported even if you're out as trans or queer or whatever. And I think in my environment in particular, it is a sort of strange thing. Like you, for instance, picked up on gender pronouns. So for instance, my pronouns are they, them. And there's actually this really great site called Pronoun Island. If you go to pronoun.is, you can do pronoun.is/she, and it'll explain how those pronouns work. So I think one thing that you can do to help people to feel more welcome and to help people feel more comfortable is certainly to ask about pronouns to not just folks that you think read as queer or read as trans, but ask about pronouns to everybody so that it just becomes a standard thing. And some people, like me, I put it on my Twitter profile. It's very easy to find. Other folks, they may be out to some people. So you need to know, hey, I know that when I speak to you privately, your pronouns are she, her, but I don't know if you want that to be the case when I talk about you, say, in an article or when we are introducing you to a new audience or a new person. So I think that that's one thing to do. And in my case in particular, I've just been so fortunate to be supported by my colleagues and by my family. And so I think, you know, acknowledging, like even as you're doing now in the conversation, that people are out there, even thriving, who are experiencing gender or sexuality in a variety of ways, helps more people to know that it's out there, but also that it's okay and that you're going to be all right. And I think now, like, you see a lot of crowdfunding, you see a lot of online artists and campaigns with Patreons and stuff like that. Like, people are coming out more, and I think that that's really beautiful and fantastic. And I think that creating inclusive online environments can help support inclusive meet space environments as well.
Sure, sure. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, B, for taking a minute to help me with that. You really are a role model to a lot of people, for your crowdfunding expertise and your social consciousness and the great things you do in so many aspects of your life. Who do you look up to? Who inspires you as a role model?
Yeah, man, there are so many people who inspire me. It's hard to think of just one, but I do have to really give a shout out. I know this is like so stereotypical and corny, but I have to give a shout out to my mom, because she was an architect at a time when not many women were becoming architects. She's just such a mover and shaker in the world. And one thing that I really love about her that I see in the way that she interacts with people is that she creates environments where people of different skills, of different backgrounds, of different passions can get together and, eat shrimps or eat bread or eat what, like, she just creates this warm atmosphere in which friends from all different backgrounds can meet and get to know each other, and even sometimes create new projects and things together by being introduced to her. So something that I really aspire toward is to make those connections, to bring people together, even people that maybe don't think of themselves as friends, or they may be on different continents, but they have things in common or even meaningful differences that bringing them together can really create something beautiful.
Oh, that's great. Now, B, our time is short, but you really are amazing. You've been super successful. What is your superpower?
Gosh. Oh my. One thing that's really served me well is being able to translate. And that doesn't mean translate languages. I've only studied a couple, and I'm terrible at grammar and basically everything except English. But being able to translate between people who are maybe expressing themselves in different ways. I work in environments where some folks are extremely technical and really deep into their craft, whether it be in computer science or even an artistic expression. And they may be working with people, especially in the business side of things, who aren't necessarily familiar with those trades or those crafts. And part of what I feel has served me really well in working on teams has been being able to translate the priorities and the needs of people in different mind spaces so that they can actually have a conversation and make sure that we're getting the solutions that we need, because sometimes we are speaking different languages to each other, and being able to sort of hear the heart of what someone is saying has been very helpful to me.
Oh, fantastic. Well, V, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, please tell people how they can learn more about you and connect with you personally.
Sure. One easy way to see what I'm up to and perhaps be scared by my politics is to check out my Twitter feed, which is @B, the letter B, _Cavello, my last name. Or you can go to my website. You can go to B is for biz, so BISFOR.biz, or bcavello.com. All of those lead to the same place. You'll find me, and I'm happy to chat.
B, thank you so much for being with us today. We wish you every success in the great work you're doing in crowdfunding.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you. Cheers.
Thank you. Let's do some good.